Hello and welcome to this presentation on using assets inside of Unity. This is for the Introduction to C# in Unity course. In this presentation we're going to cover importing assets into Unity, importing packages into Unity, using assets in Unity, and the asset store, which we may not actually get to. Depends on if it's actually blocked. Alright, so what are assets? What are packages? Well, assets are anything in Unity that you use inside of a project. Alright, so anything that you actually want to use inside of your project, whether it be an application or a game, is an asset, something that you use. This includes, but is not limited to, any images or textures that you use, any 3D models that you bring into your program, any sprites that you use, any sounds and or music that you use, and also all classes or scripts, either they being ones that you create yourself or ones that you actually find at other resource sites and bring into your project. So assets can be in a raw form, like a WAV file or an MP3 file, if you're talking about sounds, or they can be bitmaps or JPEGs for images. There's many more different types of formats. If it's a 3D model, it can be an object file or an FBX file. So you bring those raw assets into your project, and that's fine, and you refer to them as assets. Now, they can also be inside of what's known as a package, and all of a package is, you can think of it kind of like a zip file or a compressed file, although it's not really compressed, that is a collection of all these different assets for well, a particular scene or a particular game object that you're trying to use. So you can think of it like, let's say you make a level inside of Unity, but your project has lots and lots of different things in it, but you only want to export the level that you're currently using. So maybe you want to import that inside of another project. Well, you can do that, and it will go through your project and gather all of the resources that are actually used only in that level and make a compilation of all of these things and export it out. And these are called packages. If you take a model and put a certain texture on it and make certain animations work with it, you can export that character, a completed character, out of Unity to be imported into another program or as another Unity scene. And again, this would be a package. Alright? Things that you usually get off of the asset store are packages. If you haven't checked out the asset store, I encourage you to do so. There are a lot of free assets there. Models, animations, sound packages, sprite packages, lots of different things that you can use. Some are free, some you have to pay money for. Alright, different assets are applied in different ways. Some are complete models. For example, the things that you would get from the asset store can come with their own textures, come with their own animations. But there are some that are as simple as a texture to use for a GUI button. For example, if you're trying to make some kind of application and you use the touch screen capabilities or even a mouse cursor, and you want to give your buttons some kind of unique look to them, well, you can get these textures to use for what your button's going to look like. And these, while they're also assets, you actually apply them a different way. You can't just drag and drop into your scene. What you will have to do is figure out exactly how Unity can take advantage of this asset. This usually will comprise of finding a component that's built into Unity and figuring out how it can actually take advantage of this asset that you're trying to use. Alright, so going into Unity, if you were directed here by me from my class at JFK High School on C# in Unity, you can go to Edline, and on Edline you'll find a folder called Assets. Inside of that you will find another folder that says Unity and C#. I think that's the name of it. You can go inside of that folder and download these. The first is a Class Asset 1 Unity package. The second is a nightstand with cabinet JPEG file. Now, these are two different ways to actually put this into your project. Now, what you can do is you can go up to Assets, and for import new asset, that would be things like individual sound files, individual images, etc., etc. You can go to Import Package and import any of these packages that come with Unity Standard, or you can choose Custom Package, and that's for things like this. Something you've exported yourself, which by the way you do here, Export Package, or things that you download from different Unity asset providers. And this image would be an example of importing a new asset. Now, you can use this drop down. Nothing wrong with it. That's fine. Or you can merely drag and drop your asset into your project window. Drag it over, and now it's inside of my project. Now, when you import a package, you get something a little bit different. So we'll drag and drop the package over here. It's going to come up with this. It shows you all of the assets that are actually included inside of that package. Now, this package only has one asset inside of it, but if it had more than just this one texture, it would have lists underneath this, right down here. Even if there's individual files or inside of other folders, they'll be listed here as well. So you just click Import, and then it imports it into your project. Now, these are textures. Now, if I just try to drag a texture into my scene, nothing happens. If I just try to drag a texture onto an object, nothing happens. So if I do create a cube, for example, I try to drag this onto the cube, something does happen. Why? Well, the cube has what's known as a material on it. Okay, the material is set up here with this shader. Okay, now let's go ahead and just delete this actually. Okay. Now when we first make a cube, we can see all of the different components or classes that exist on the cube by default. Now there's one down here talking about materials. Okay, it has a mesh render, which just means that it makes it visible in 3D space, and the materials that it uses shows what it will actually look like. Now right now it's set to a grayish whitish color with no texture actually applied to it. Now we can go and well, actually I guess I can't. So we can go, for example, and say we're going to create down here, create a material. Now again, a material just shows you what a certain object will look like, and it has a couple settings. First of all, it has what kind of shader you're going to use. That's beyond the scope of this discussion. But all shaders are the way, more or less, the way that light reflects off of something and the way something looks, as far as the light around it, different things that can actually affect the way something looks. For example, transparency, diffuse maps, bump maps, etc., etc. Again, you don't know what I'm talking about. That's what I was talking about. Is it's beyond the scope of this. We're just talking about the basics for now. Now we can take this material, apply it to this cube, like so, and we can check and see that this has actually been assigned a new material. Now if we were to change the name of this, we'll call it, I don't know, basic 1. Alright, you'll see that inside the cube the material has been changed to basic 1. Now if we want to change the color, we can do that, no problem. If we want to add a texture, we can do that too. And that's what I was talking about inside the presentation, is once you bring in assets, you have to find the components that make the best use of them. For things like 3D models, you have to have a material applied to the model, and then you can take your texture and apply it to the material. So we can go over here and add that nightstand texture, or we can add this other texture to it. And the color, if we set it to white, it's exactly how the texture is supposed to look. But we can change the tint as well. Make it a bluish or a purplish looking color. Okay? If you look inside of the main camera, you'll see that this has an audio listener. There are other audio type of components that, for example, it will actually emit some kind of sound. So if you bring in a sound asset, you'll actually have to set that sound to be played from one of these sound sources. It's called an audio source. Okay. Things like that. If you bring in a 3D model, yeah, you can just drag it into your scene, but then there's other things that you're going to have to set up on the 3D model, and those will be components that will actually take advantage of other assets that you'll import. Okay, so that's a basic overview of importing assets and packages into Unity and how to use them. Again, some of these are different than others, and you'll have to do research and figure out how to use different parts. I guess that pretty much encompasses everything inside of this lesson. I didn't want to make this one very long because it's a pretty basic topic. But I guess that's about it. Have a nice day. And see you in class, or if you did not, or you were not actually directed here from my class, I hope you learned something, and if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. Bye.